would imbue, and he did, with his enormous humanity and compassion. And I knew the audience would love him. And I knew that they would hate me in equal measure. And that is the story. It's a balance. It's a balance of all these characters that you're aware as you're watching the play that you turn your eyes from one to the other, but it's all affected. Each person's, what you give, you get. What you get, you give. And it only works if we're together, and we were so together, that's all. This person, when we have a speech in the thing about that she has my back, I really always felt that. And you know, because she made me feel that way. So I feel like, you know, we're very lucky to have each other. Yeah, in making this thing. And that does have to do with the way John set it up. Because John set, how you put a family together, you don't get a vote in who's in your family. But John was like God, and he put, you know, he put this group of people together and thought, oh, this will get messy. And it was really, that was masterfully done.
Well, I would like to speak about Dermot for a moment and say that it was, Dermot and I have been friends since my best friend's wedding. We became great pals then, and when he called me that he had gotten a part in this, we squealed like little girls, both of us, and we're so excited for each other and to be back together. And without everybody, but in particular Dermot, who even when he had a day off would come run lines with me before I went to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, traded for a good cup of coffee.
Yeah, her coffee was a lot better than mine.
Exceptionally good coffee. And it was just the whole time feeling so supported by my old friend. He would come to work and watch scenes that I was in and just kind of like support me in that way. It was beautiful to have each other in that way, especially when we're all away from our families and forging new relationships. It was just nice to have my rock steady there. Yeah. It was great.
You know, I'd start my day with a coffee with Julia, and then I'd be able to, because I know her and love her, we would whisper in each other's ear on the set, and then I'd kiss her goodnight. Can you imagine a day like that?
That really is not going to go well in print, I don't think, Dermot.
Well, you know, on the cheek. That's what I mean. You know.
Let's just get that straight, people. Okay. Two happy
one.
marriages, a whole lot of kids here.
On the cheek, people.
Let's go over here to you, right there. Yes, there we go. Behind you. There you go.
Oh, that was really critically cold. Yeah.
Go ahead.
We'll get back to you.
Hi. Because of the strong mother-daughter bond, although dysfunctional, I wanted to know what if Meryl and Julia did to kind of get into that, and how difficult it was to shake it off at the end of a very emotional scene, or the dinner scenes, or those very emotional days.
How did we do it?
We ate a lot.
We hugged a lot. I mean, I always had to look her right in the eye before we parted ways to make sure we're all good. We're kidding, right?
Yeah. It wasn't the most joyous experience from my point of view. It was hard to feel that way about everybody. Except you. You know, it was really, that was miserable, and it was also during the election, and also the television is very odd out there. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, it was so, you can feel very disembodied in that world, so it was important to make a connection beyond, outside the set. Also, I was smoking nonstop, which is, really makes you feel shitty.
Let's go to the front row here in the blue sweater.
This is for everyone. The movie touches on so many different topics. Is there any, whether it's secrets or substance abuse, is there any one particular topic that touched you very, emotionally?
Chris?
Yeah, I had to particularly zero in on this idea of unconditional love for your child when people don't see that child as whole, So that was something that was really visceral and something to, life experience that you can bring, to your work. That was a big one.
Anybody else?
Make Margo talk. Margo, she's
yes,
never been this quiet in the
Yeah,
history
she's
of the
never
world.
shut up usually.
It's very early for me. I found the part of being so critical and painfully brutal to my son the hardest, and it also, I could see a little bit of that in myself, and it made me feel ashamed. So I think that was the hardest part for me, is how incredibly cruel I was. And my dear sister wasn't cruel at all, was she?
For me, one of the most upsetting scenes we shot very early on, and it was with Sam Shepard, who's a person, a writer I really have always admired him as an actor. And to look at him close up and see his loathing of me, that was really hard, because you get old, you look old, you're old, and and you still think that maybe there's this spark of love from this person who's gone through everything, and to look in his eyes and realize that he'd rather be dead than looking at me. Ooh, that was brutal. That was that sort of set the tone for, where my own dealing with his death and everything afterwards.
Let's get a question for Tracy as well. We have the author of this work sitting right here, so maybe if you have a question for Tracy, I just want the guy who created the story to be included. Go ahead.
This is very specific. I wonder if I was working with Gustavo Santaolalla in the music, if either Tracy or John had back and forth with him to create the atmosphere, or if it was just a work for hire. And also I wonder if anybody could also comment about how did you manage to be so serious during the scene that Chris is blessing the food?
Well, I can speak to Gustavo, who is our wonderful composer. Gustavo came in, we had finished the film, roughly finished the film, and he came in and saw it and was very moved by it. He doesn't work often because of that. He has a very busy touring schedule as a musician. And we had used a number of his pieces in the temp score, and we called him to ask him if he would do it, and I was very surprised that he responded that he would, because he doesn't do film very often. And then I had the great pleasure of spending, he has a studio that's in the Echo Park area of Los Angeles, and one of my great pleasures through the whole process was spending about 2 weeks over there, watching him create the music and play. And those are, to me, are always the gift at the end of the entire post-production process, which can be very grueling, is to actually then get to work with the musicians. We recorded the score then at Abbey Road in London, and to be on the sound stages with Gustavo and 100 members of mostly from the London Philharmonic. Those are just wonderful, wonderful moments. He was integral to what we were doing.